Okay, so we're live here. We're live. Of course, we're live on Tom. Thank you for the comment over there in what is that? YouTube. Hi, Tom. I'm writing that down there right there. Hey, comments really help. Hopefully, you can hear me, and you can see me, and that everything's good. I will switch this over here to this. All right, so I can see that screen. I have all these screens up in my outline. So today we're going to talk about renaming files. And one of the things that comes up is that somebody names something and then later they realize it's the wrong name. Maybe they did the chapter number wrong. So if they were working on an audiobook, or they had something up, and heck, I'm very often multitasking and something comes up, and later I would like to rename something, and then you know, and so people kind of, one of the things that they don't know is that Studio One has a thing called .song. That's the file format that it's going to use. It's naming everything .song. It doesn't show that here on the start page, but it does show it. So I'm going to show you the easy ways to rename it. You can do it in the file manager. You can do it in the you can do it I'm drawing a blank on it. You think I know that. You can do it in the Finder. You can do it in the file manager if you choose to. But there's a real easy way to do it right in Studio One, and I missed it for years, and I'm going to assume some of the other people missed it. So let me show you the easy way to do it. And let's just say that I have a song up here, and I do. Imagine that. And this one, it's really hard to see in this screen here. Let me see if I can zoom in on that. Yep, I can. I called this Renaming Songs. Now note, there's an asterisk in here under Windows which says that that file has some changes since the last time it's been saved. On the Mac, if you look in the little circle that's there in the upper left-hand corner, the red circle will have a dot inside of it. If there's been a change since the last time it was saved, it'll be there. So here's the easy button to do it. So first thing, let me go ahead and save this just so that it's saved. So now you can see the little asterisk goes away. Well, you really can't see it there. There you can kind of see right up there by my cursor that the asterisk has gone away, and it now just says renaming songs. And then I'm going to but the easy thing to do is to go into the menu system here, and from that you will do File, and guess what you use? Rename. Now, that's the easy thing to do. I'm going to do that. Renaming songs, we're going to say new name here. And then what's going to happen is at the top, look at this up here. It says new name here, asterisk, okay? So there's been a change there. And then I'm going to save that, but I've already just renamed it. Now, here's the thing that's interesting that most people don't know. Behind the scenes, not only did it rename, well, I'm going to talk about this in a second, but I'll give you a quick overview. Behind the scenes, we create a file. That's not news to anybody. We created a file. In addition to creating a file, what happens is a folder gets created with that exact same name, and that confuses people sometimes. Now, hey, Colette. Hey, Brian. Great to see you in both places. Brian's in two spots. I see him in two spots. By the way, I do appreciate you guys going over there and watching it on YouTube. That's a big win for the channel there. And appreciate it. But here's, and even if you just turn it on and silence it. But by the way, it's all delayed for me between the two. They're not even the same delay, so that's always fascinating. But so behind the scenes, we're going to go look at the file, and there's two ways to get to the file. But this, for example, called new name here, is something that is that there is a file now named new name here, whatever yours is called. And then at the same time, when we go behind the scenes, we're going to go back to the start page, and via the start page, we have this other cool thing that we can do. We could go search for this. This is why people get kind of wigged out of this. They'd have to know, well, what was the name? What did I name it here? And by the way, I'm going to zoom in on this. Let me put this up over here just so you can kind of get an idea over here. Right over here, we have new name here. I'll zoom in on that so you can see that. That happens to be the folder that we're working with that was created when I named it new name here. And then when I look at it, here's new name here, autosave. It's taking care of the autosaves. It's doing a bunch of things behind the scenes. And let's see what it did. Let's see what it did in the history. Did it have? Look at that. The autosaves, though, were the original names because those occurred during that. And as the new autosaves come in, they'll show up with the new one. The new, so let me go ahead and zoom that back out, and we'll go back a level. So here's what happens. Studio One's a team player, and it's highly organized. Behind the scenes, new name here is created. Now I'm going to move this over to the side here, and then I'll zoom in on it in a little bit so you can see it. But if I'm right here and I want to find out where in the world is that on disk, well, I happen to know where it was, so I could go find it easily. But if you ever can't find your song, or you don't remember, or you accidentally put it in the wrong folder, you can right click, and you always have the option of show in Finder, show in show in Finder. I already said it. Show in Finder, show in File Manager. It's so funny, I'm on my PC and I'm using my Mac terms. I'm back and forth all day long, and I'll say the wrong thing. But anyway, bottom line, in the file system, the right name is there. And I can just simply, right from here, right from the start page, take any file, right-click on it, and one of the options is to go show it in the Explorer or the Finder. I don't have the right word there. And so that makes it easy to go find. Where in the world did I put that thing? So if you accidentally can't find it, it's going to be in this list, which helps. But watch this. We're going to go back to that file, and I'm going to rename it again, and I'm going to zoom back out. And when I rename it again, over here on the right, you are going to see an interesting thing happen. That not only is the song file right here going to get renamed, but the folder that it's in will get renamed. Right now, this folder is named new file, new name here. Okay, same as the song, because that's what it does, because it needs to keep other information in its team. All the recording, for example, a song file has no audio within it. That's all stored in a separate folder, and it makes the folder when it needs it. I'm going to zoom back out here. But that ends up making it easy, easy, easy. Okay? Oh, Brian, thank you for the loud and clear. That's always super helpful. So watch. File, rename. Got to find that there. And instead of new name here, we're going to go to third name. And when we do that, over here, you're going to see some renames happening, and it's going to change. Aha! And that's what I wanted you to see. Because I'm going back and forth, and I have things open, then most people aren't going to do this. I am in that folder right now. And when you're in the folder, so this is what will happen every once in a while, and this is why I wanted to go through this whole thing, is that sometimes somebody will go, hey, I can't do the rename. Why? Because something that you are doing has locked the file and won't allow you to go ahead and rename because of what's open. I'm going to close this guy here, and when that guy is closed, or the other thing happens, people will take and they've exported a file, which would be in the stems folder, which is in that same folder, and then they go to do a rename, and it won't allow them to do that if a file in one of the subfolders is open in another application. So I've seen that case too. And watch this. We're going to go ahead and I'll save this file just so you get an idea, because if I save it, I'm going to do that with keyboard shortcut. Saved it. And now when I close that thing and I say rename, now let's see if it'll allow me this time. And there it worked. So you get into this interesting thing where Studio One has an easy time doing it, but because it's a set of files, I'm going to go back to this. I'll go back at some point and look at the start page, and then we'll go to that folder. If any one of the subfolders or a file is open, then the machine is locking it temporarily just for a second, just for the time it's open there. If File Manager wasn't open, or if there was a file that was in another app. So like, see, here's allow me this time. I'm going to go find that one, show in Explorer again. It comes up. Note, song file has been renamed. Zoom in. Allow me this time. There it is. And the folder itself is renamed. So it renamed the folder. It renamed the file. It renamed this autosave that's pending. The ones that are already there will have whatever name they had originally, but it's doing all the right things. And just note, if you ever want to take this song to another machine or send it to somebody, then what you need to do is go ahead and there is the folder. We would take that whole folder. A lot of times I'll compress it to a zip file and I'll send that off to somebody, but you don't have to do that from here because there is another way. If you really want to package all this up to send to somebody else, we'll go into that, And there's another command that we'll talk about, and that's convert to zip. And when I do that, it'll package everything up there, and it will by default put it in that same folder. It's going to create a zip file for us, and I'm just going to save that. And then what you're going to see now, it will allow me to do some other things. There are some very interesting things that will allow me to do. We choose OK, and then when we go back to this folder right here, when we go in here, now there's a little file there that has everything related to it. It packaged all this stuff up into one. That's great for archiving. That's great for sending to somebody else. That's beyond what we're talking about today. We're just really talking about renaming and letting you know, hey, this whole set of files all work together to create our song file. And our song file is a container, and it contains all our audio, but it also contains things like, hey, this track happens to be set to blue, and this other track happens to be set to a yellow color, and this one is so high, and the zoom level of the whole thing, and where it's zoomed in terms of the horizontal zoom levels, all that kind of information, what macro toolbar is up here as far as what the buttons are that are in that, and the buttons on the top that are active, and all sorts of, there's 100 other details that are all kept in the song file, and the song file knows where all the actual audio files are. I only have one with this one, and by the way, that happens to always be in the media folder. And one of the things I do, sometimes I'll back into the media folder, and the way I do that is rather than go into it from the start page, I will, like, here's how I'll find this sometimes. I'll go in and I'll use song, and there's an option right here that's called show media folder in Explorer or Finder. We do that, it brings it up, and it shows us all the media. In this case, because there's only one segment, then I have these two there. By the way, if I turn this off, watch this trick. Now I'm down to one file, okay? Why is that? Well, there's a good reason for that. We'll go over that another time. But there's one file there because there's one event in our audio, and because there's one event, you have one file. There's a reason for that. Sometimes you'll notice you have an extra one. We'll talk about that someday. That's an interesting backstory too. But once I am in the media folder, I happen to always know that up level is the folder that contains everything, the song file, the history, which is your autosaves and versions, some other stuff that Studio One needs. It's just highly organized. So it's doing all the right things for us. And the few occasions where, if I try to do a rename right now, because I'm looking at this thing here, it can be locked. It will not work temporarily. I close these folders, and then it will all work again. If I've exported to, I haven't exported this. Let me just do a quick export on this. And if we take this track and we export it, then at that time, Studio One is going to create another folder. And here's a little secret. Studio One never creates a folder until it needs something. So if you're going to export stems, for example, then it won't create the stems folder until you've created one stem. So if I take this thing and I export it one time, you'll see a stems folder created over here. Let me go back to that. That's right there. Same folder, but it did open this one. So now this same resource has a stems folder, and it's sitting there, and it's, easy, but it didn't need stems up to now until there was an export. Now it created one. So once you know how it works, it is highly organized. It's actually pretty simple, but it's not something that most people would have thought of, because if they come from Word or Excel or something like that, they don't have a whole collection of folders and files. And by the way, if you're doing audio and you're like, wow, this stuff's crazy, crazy complicated, all I have to say is go do video. And as soon as I started doing video, I stopped complaining about all the complexity of audio in terms of the files and the other parts. Because video makes this look like child's play in terms of all the different elements that are required to put together a video. There's so much stuff on disk, and that's getting pulled off in real time. So let me look for questions. I hope that's clear. The only time this will ever get blocked is when another program has something open. And by the way, like, for example, if I double click on this, this is going to come up for me in RX. And when it comes up in RX and then it will go ahead. There it is. Well, now that it's in RX, if I try to do a rename from here, it won't rename because it's open here. It's tied up, and it can't rename something that's within another program. So I do have occasions where it seems like it doesn't work. And what's really happening is it would work, but it can't because something is in another program, and Studio One doesn't have control over those elements being in something else. So temporarily it'll say, I can't rename that. And I should let you know, in theory, you can go in and you can rename that song spot. Well, let me show you what happens, because I'm going to take this. Now I have it open. This would fail. But let me go ahead and close this. So we have this song file, and I'm going to close this here. And so I'm going to save changes. So now I've just saved that, and that's going to be there. And then I can go behind the scenes, and once that's closed up and not there, then I can go ahead and I can rename this thing, and you'll see what happens. First off, if the folder's in a different place, it'll still work. That's okay. It doesn't care about that at all. But what does happen is, so I'm going to go ahead and take this, and I'm going to say new. So now I've just renamed that thing, and it allowed me to do that. I go in there and I take the song file, and I'm going to call this, boy, I don't know what happens if they're mixed up, by the way. This should be new, but I'm going to try something newer. I don't know what will happen here. I believe when I open this that it understands the relative relationship of everything, and I think I can do this. And yep, it just comes right up and works. And even though I renamed it here, it understood. It allowed me to have a mismatch between my folder name and the song name, and that's okay. You just don't need to do that. You don't need to go behind the scenes and rename this stuff. You can do it all within Studio One, and it'll do the right thing. It'll do your song file. It'll do your folder, as long as something isn't already open in another program. All right, let me look for questions here. All right. Brian, Stephen, Tom, Dale. I don't see any questions there now. One of the things that will happen is, let me pop this chat out, because pop out chat, and then I have to make sure I'm seeing all the real-time comments instead of the other one. Yep. All messages are visible. Okay, cool. It cracks me up how complicated this stuff is sometimes. All right. And Colette, good to see you there. Yeah. Thank you for being there. All right. So that all works. Renames are easy. You don't need to know most of that stuff. Matter of fact, I have people that go 2-3 years and don't ever understand how this is working behind the scenes. That's okay. That can be you. Note, tomorrow we're doing a special session called Punch and Roll in a Day. And so if you haven't checked that out, it's vojumpstart.com/easypnr. And if you already have the Jumpstarts, it's like $27. It's really cheap. If you don't have the Jumpstart yet, check out VO Jumpstart. Just go to vojumpstart.com, and you'll get a bunch of stuff there. And I don't see any questions, so I'm going to let you go here for the day. And for those of you that are in the course tomorrow, we're doing a live Punch and Roll in a Day. It's a couple-hour class that's just going through and helping people. People even get the course, and then they put it off, and they don't do it for a year, sometimes weeks, sometimes months. Something comes up in life, and they don't do it. And so by doing this, we jumpstart them and get all the essential punch and roll stuff happening. And since it's in real time, you can ask questions. I can answer the questions. We can make sure that everybody in the course is doing PNR really well, doing great punch and roll. And if you already have the Jumpstart, it's dirt cheap. It's like $27. The replay will be available. If you can't make it live, that'll be available. It usually takes me about 48 hours to get that live, but it will be live, and then you can get it then as well. So if you haven't checked that out, check out. Oh, final thing for those that stay to the end. Next Tuesday starts a brand new series on YouTube called VOTech Simplified Live. So I'm going to be on YouTube live every Tuesday, starting now. The day may shift. Right now we're on Tuesdays. I think right now I'm scheduling it for about 3 o'clock Pacific, 6 o'clock Eastern. But VOTech Live, Simplified. And all we're going to be talking about is tech-related stuff, and it won't just be Studio One. We'll be talking about RX, microphones, interfaces, everything, all the other stuff that we have to put together to make sure that we can produce audio that's not related just to Studio One or just to RX. We still have microphones and interfaces and monitors and recording and headphones and all this other stuff, what our room is and the room treatment and little details like that. So every Tuesday we'll be live. Right now it's on Tuesdays. We might change that day at some point, but until further notice, we'll see you on Tuesday. And of course, if you have a question, be sure to join the Facebook group. What are we called? S1. I don't remember, but it's in the show notes. If you're on Facebook, then you already know where it is. And if you're on YouTube, check out the description and you'll see the link to the Facebook group. 4,200 people doing this day in and day out for voiceover. The Studio One's growing like crazy and for great reasons. And wait till you see what they have coming up for 2024. I think you're going to be just flat out excited if you're not already. And most people are. Best PR punch and roll in the business. Look forward to seeing you on the wires. You have a fantastic day. If I don't talk to you, Happy New Year. If you're watching this live, all right, or in the next couple of days. We'll see you later. Have a great one. Bye.